Hey Tarot friends, it's Dustin from A Modern Metaphysic Man, and today I thought we could hang out and take a trip through Kathleen Deyo's Source Energy Art Tarot deck. This deck, just so that there's full disclosure, was sent to me for review from the creator, but just like any deck review, all of my thoughts, views, and opinions on this deck are my own, and this video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. So Kathleen reached out to me a couple of weeks ago now and asked if I was interested in her deck, and it was completely not even on my radar. I had no idea about it. So she sent me information about it. I checked it out. I was instantly drawn to the artwork, and it really appealed to me. So I said yes, I would love to receive a copy and do a review of it. With any deck that I get from creators, I always spend at least a week working with the deck before I do a review, because I really want it to come from a very genuine place. I don't want it to be a first impressions kind of video, things like that. So I have been working with this deck. As you can see, the box it's been opened and it's dented, and there's like a little ding on it somewhere from when I dropped it on the floor. But it's held up pretty well. It does come obviously in a tuck box. And yeah, as always, I will put in the description box below where you can find out more information about Kathleen and her artwork, as well as where to pick up a copy of this deck. And down there, you'll also find all of my personal links of where you can reach out and connect with me, as well as if you would like a personal reading, which you can book over on my website, modernmetaphysicman.com. So yeah, let's dive into this. So when I first saw her artwork, it's breathtaking. You get a taste of it in this. She is a painter, and all of the cards in the deck were painted by her. Some of them do have some collage elements and things like that, but they are really exceptionally beautiful. The backs here have this sort of floral, it almost looks like a textile to me design. They're not reversible, so if reversals are something significantly important to you, that might be a little bit of a letdown, but I don't read reversals, so not a big deal for me. The size of the cards are, they're actually pretty large. So we have a traditional yellow box RWS here. We'll grab a card. It looks like we got the King of Cups. And as you can see, they're significantly larger than a standard deck of cards. So if you have very small hands, again, not an issue. The cardstock is actually really nice. One of the things that the creator said she wasn't super happy about was the cardstock. But I have to say, it's basically like, you know, standard make playing cards cardstock. It is a little bit on the slidey side, but the stock itself is nice, and for as large as the cards are, they don't feel super bendy. So it's a nice cardstock. I really don't have any issues at all with this cardstock. And yeah, so as always, we will do our full flip through with a nice little bit of background music, and then we'll come back at the end to talk about cards that really stand out to me and what my thoughts are on the deck. So again, this is the Source Energy Art Tarot by Kathleen Deyo. So that is the Source Energy Art Tarot. It is just a really, really beautiful deck. Kathleen's paintings are just, I mean, they're gorgeous, right? Like, they're so beautiful. This deck is really interesting to me because it is a really timeless deck. You know, there's this almost kind of looks like San Francisco Bridge, right? And you kind of have that, or even New York, maybe the Brooklyn Bridge, and you have that really kind of fast-paced city life movement kind of idea going on, right? But in other cards, you know, this one almost feels like a post-war era, like farmer, right? And then you have like these, you know, medieval scenes and things like that, or this guy who's just in a t-shirt, right? So it feels really timeless in that sense. And the other thing that I really appreciate about this deck is that there is diversity represented, which is wonderful. There's different people of color, different people of, you know, sizes and genders and all that kind of stuff, and but it doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. It feels like that's what should be on that card, right? Which I just think is really fascinating. I did really find it interesting that the death card depicted Native Americans. I thought that was there's a lot there. There was a lot there for me to unpack of change, and thinking about it from the perspective of the natives, being someone of Native American heritage, thinking about what it would be like to have my world completely disrupted by what would seem like to us aliens today, right? And how that was associated to and related to the meaning of the death card in the RWS system, which this deck very much adheres to. But it's her painting and her artwork is beautiful. You can tell in some cases she does use some collage and some other media and things like that, but for the most part it is oil painting from my understanding. It's really beautiful. Some of her work you can really pick up like on the impasto in her work. I would just love to like go up and touch some of these paintings because, you know, that's, I don't know, I love touching paintings that have a lot of impasto and things like that. So that is the deck. The cards that really stood out to me in this deck, I really loved this Magician. I adored the traditional sense of the card, but I also liked sort of the little bit of a darker tone to this, which echoes back to its, you know, historical Marseille meanings of the, you know, the manipulator and things like that. This Emperor, like, as an Aries myself, I love this more jovial, sort of like slouched over Emperor who, you know, I much more relate to than the like military commander super alpha male that you see depicted in a lot of decks. I adore, this is actually one of my all-time favorite Wheel of Fortune cards. I love all of the different depictions of the wheel on this. I just thought it was such a really cool and clever way to talk about the meaning in this card. This moon card just feels otherworldly. I love that there's a little poodle, and I love that it has a leash. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, the symbolism in tarot and things like that on this channel, and we talk a lot about in the moon cards how there's often two dogs being represented, one being a wolf and the other being a domesticated dog, but the leash being added to that adds so much more to it. And then just this like surreal landscape really pulls you into that like that water energy and the ideas of the subconscious and things like that. It's just, I adore this. Honestly is probably my favorite card in the entire deck. I love it. The Two of Pentacles, I love the inclusion of music here. It was never a card that I had thought about having musical associations, and in fact it also drew me to the thought of sound and tarot, and how we don't really talk a lot about sound in tarot, although it's a very important piece of our everyday lives. And you know, I've been watching a lot of Fortune's Wheelhouse lately, which is an amazing podcast, by the way. If you don't watch that, you definitely should check it out, and I'll put a link to it in the comments or in the description box below. But the idea of sound being associated with a card, especially like this card, it really struck me and I loved it. Again, the Eight of Pentacles, I just really liked the inclusion of more modern stuff. I loved the guitar in the background and the sheet music and that kind of the process of creation and how it's messy. And oftentimes when we look at the Eight of Pentacles, it's very meticulous, and sometimes perfecting things isn't always about that, right? It's a messy process in it, and it sometimes can feel frustrating, and it's not as rote as most decks sort of make it out to be. The King of Pentacles I thought was really wonderful. Again, just the diversity struck me in this card. I just thought it was really beautiful. I loved the crown, and it was all very unique. This Three of Cups is probably one of my favorite Three of Cups depictions ever. The idea of them being spirits and not people, I loved. There's something about the idea of people coming together in the afterlife that is just really fascinating to me, and I really, really adored this depiction of the Three of Cups. The Five of Cups, equally as beautiful. I mean, just gorgeous. Very traditional in the symbolism and things like that. Absolutely wonderful. Same with the Five of Rods. I like this guy in the background is really what struck me about this card. It's almost like he's manipulating, and you get that sense of conflict. And sometimes I think the Five of Rods a lot shows up in readings for me when we're talking about conflict in the sense of manipulated conflict, right? People manipulating you into a state of fighting for stuff, which just is really unnecessary sometimes. So I thought that was really cool. And then this Ten of Rods. We all know that I adore the Ten of Wands or Rods in this deck, and I just loved the sense of light and that sunset and that finally being able to put down all your burdens. I just thought it was just really exceptionally well done. So those are my thoughts on some of my favorite cards. I love the artwork in this deck. It's absolutely gorgeous. The card stock's wonderful. The downsides for this deck to me, there are a couple cards where you can tell that cropping and digitalization of the artwork did kind of take a toll. So in this card in particular, you can see there's some pixelization on the horse, which I did think was unfortunate. I would love to see that a little bit better. The other thing that I think it doesn't personally bother me, but I think it might sort of bother some people, is the fact that the border isn't consistent on all of the cards. I think, even some of them are much more noticeable. Like here we have the page, you can see the left and right border is extremely large. Personally, doesn't bother me at all. Borders are there to frame and focus the viewer on an image. They're very important when it comes to artwork. The tarot community right now is on this like crazy borderless kick. That's fine if that's the way you like it. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do know that I did notice that it doesn't personally bother me so much, but I know that some people will find that off-putting. But those are really my only complaints about the deck. There's a couple cards, these two in particular, that seemed a little pixelated and didn't really transfer over from the original artwork into the deck format as well as I think they could have, and the borders being a little wonky here and there. It would have been cool to have that a little bit more consistent. But other than that, the artwork is just beautiful. I mean, it's very striking in a lot of senses, in a lot of cases. And I think if you are a traditional reader and you read by the book, you're going to very easily be able to pick this up. I think even if you are a new reader, this would be an excellent deck to start with. And I think if you are a seasoned reader or an intuitive reader, there's a ton to pick up from here too. I did forget to mention at the start too that the deck does not come with a guidebook, but there is a downloadable PDF on her website. I did read through it. It's pretty standard stuff. There wasn't anything in it for me personally that really struck me, but I've been studying and reading tarot since I was 16, and I'm going to be 34 in April. So for me, it was pretty standard stuff. It was good. It was decently written. There were a couple weird formatting things. I think that may have been on my computer's end. I don't know. But I do know that Kathleen mentioned that she was working on it and expanding it and things like that. So that's something to look forward to. But it was well written, and there's a lot of information in there, and it talked a lot about different symbolisms and meanings and things like that in the cards directly from the creator, which I just think is always like the best thing possible, right? I love it when the artist, the deck creator, and the guidebook writer are always the same person, because sometimes I feel like when decks get released and they hire a writer to do the guidebook, there's a big disjointing that occurs. And it's not to say that there's nothing there, that's the wrong way to do it. I just think that this is the better way to do it. So bravo, Kathleen, on producing such a gorgeous deck. I mean, it really is beautiful. And this deck is really affordable. I think it's right around $30 US plus shipping and handling from her website. Again, I'll put a link to that in the description box below. So if you love this deck, you can check it out and pick it up for yourself. So yeah, let me know what you think about this deck in the comments below. If you have this deck and you have enjoyed reading with it as much as I have over the past couple weeks, let me know down below. I would love to hear what you think. As always, everybody, thank you so very much for all your continued love and support. It means the world to me. As always, remember, everyone is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. So be kind always. Bye, everybody.